Hi, everyone. Welcome to ElCo Chats. My name is Julieta. ElCo Chats is a regular podcast where we get to chat with El Camino College students, graduates, staff, faculty, and managers here at El Camino College. For today's episode, I get to chat with Andrea Sala, Executive Director of the El Camino College Foundation here at El Camino College.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here talking about my favorite subject,
which is
scholarships.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to hearing all about it. So we'll start with question one. Introduce yourself and tell me about your role here at El Camino College.
Okay. So Andrea Sala, Executive Director of the El Camino College Foundation, as you introduced me. I have the best job. I work with an amazing team at the foundation, and our goal is to raise money. Mostly we raise money for scholarships, but also other areas too, like STEM and fine arts and athletics and any area. But we're the fundraising arm of the college, and our goal is to help make our students' educational journey a little bit easier by giving them some financial support and a little bit of ease in the process.
And we thank you for that.
Thank you.
And so the focus for today is about scholarships. So tell us a little bit about the El Camino College scholarships and what are they and who can apply?
Okay. Well, it's a good question because right now we're in the middle of scholarship season, we like to call it. During the spring when we award the scholarships for the next fall session. And so the foundation, this last fall in 2023, awarded over 650 scholarships to students, and it totaled about $910,000. So I like to say almost $1 million. Yes. That's a lot of support for our students. And that's pretty much an annual goal that we have is about $900,000. And in order to apply for a scholarship, you have to be enrolled at El Camino. You have to be a current student when you apply and continue to be enrolled. And you have to have a 2.0 GPA, and you have to have a minimum of 6 units when you're applying. And so you have to be a part-time student at least to get a scholarship. It's not a hard process. It's pretty easy. And we have scholarships for everybody. We have scholarships for every different major. We have scholarships for every different area you might be interested in. If you're an athlete, if you're a musician, if you are a former foster youth, a single parent, it goes on and on and on. So there are hundreds of scholarships that are available for students, and it's pretty easy to apply. It's not that hard. I know we're going to talk about that in a little bit.
Actually, next.
Okay. But I think that overall, the scholarship program is a real asset to students here at El Camino. And it's not a hard process. And we want to give the money out, and we have the money to give. So I think that's my biggest message is don't be afraid.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the process can be scary, right, if you don't know it. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay.
Walk us through the scholarship application process at El Camino. When does the application usually open? I know there's deadlines related. What are some of the key steps involved? And what do students need to know before they start that process?
Okay. So the scholarship application opens every year when we come back to school in the fall. We usually give students a couple of weeks to kind of get their feet wet and get into classes, and then we open the application. So it's usually the second week in September. And the application is open the entire fall semester. So they have plenty of time to work on it, to do it. Everything is done online. So it's an online application system. And it's easy. They can find it on their My ECC. It's on the left-hand column. There's a little button that just says scholarships. And it takes them right directly to the application. Initially, it's like informational, your name, your address, your phone number, email, all that kind of information. And this I think could be a little daunting when the student goes on to apply, but there are a lot of different questions at the beginning of the application, like, are you involved with the South Bay Promise? Are you former foster youth? Are you a single parent? Those things that I talked about earlier. And what that does is it feeds them into the different scholarships that they would qualify for. So we're not trying to find out all kinds of we kind of are, but we want to feed them into the right scholarships and make sure, are you an athlete? Are you graduating? Because we do have transferable scholarships where I think students don't realize that. They're like, oh, I'm graduating, I'm transferring, I'm not going to apply. We have lots of scholarships that are either you can use them here and then take them with you when you transfer, or they're only transferable. So you can only get that scholarship if you're transferring. So I want to make that point really solid to the students, is that, apply even if you're transferring. And then, there is an essay in the scholarship application that they have to complete. And it's just tell us your story. That's the prompt. Tell us your story. How can this money help you? How will it make a difference in your education? And it's a pretty simple prompt, but I think sometimes it's like, oh, that's so simple. What do I say? Here is my big plug right now. We just got done, of course, reviewing last fall's applicants. And AI played a little role in the essays this year. Mm-hmm. And I want to tell the students, we know when you're doing AI, because we actually had the same essay for several students, and, the same verbiage and that kind of thing. So we learned this year that next year we need to put a disclaimer about using AI for the essay. So it does need to be in your own words. And the hard part about AI is it can't tell your story. It can't tell the personal information about you that we want to know. Like, where did you grow up? Tell us about where you went to high school, and how did you get to El Camino, and what are your future goals? It can't tell you that. It can tell you how important a scholarship is to you, but it can't help tell your story. So the essay is pretty easy. And then after the essay, there is a section where we ask for a recommendation from a faculty member, a counselor, someone maybe you've worked with at El Camino, or lately, the last couple of years, we've allowed them to use a boss, a former coach, or a former teacher at their high school, someone who knows you and can talk about your character. And it's not hard for them, for the recommender either, because it's a very simple drop-down bar. And if they want to add a few words, they can, but it's not required. Mm-hmm. And so some students get one, some students get a couple. And then that's it. So it's, tell us the things you're interested in, write a little story, have someone recommend you, and you're done. It doesn't take very long.
Doesn't sound like it. And so just to clarify a couple of things, okay. My ECC is that student portal that every student has access to when they're a student at El Camino College. So that's where you find the application.
Thank you.
And some tips that I get from the response or the process of the application for the El Camino Scholarship, tips are have your personal story kind of already set to the side, because you're going to get asked for it, not just for El Camino College scholarship applications, but in other opportunities. So have something. And yes, make it personal. It's your story. It's not anybody else's story. And it also sounds like, especially for our new students, start having those conversations with faculty, get to know them so that they can get to know you. Because guess what? When it's time to get that letter of recommendation, you have to be sure you're asking somebody who can speak on your story and your success at El Camino. So get to know your faculty, your counselors, your coaches, or whatnot. And if students have a job on campus, get to know your supervisor as well. Really have them get to know you.
Yeah.
Because they want to be able to write that letter of recommendation.
Well, and that brings up a good point, because I do think like brand new students to El Camino, when they go on, they kind of go, oh, well, it's 2 months into the semester. I've only just started here. And that's one of the reasons that we opted to add in a former teacher, a former coach. But I do agree, get to know the faculty, get to know your counselors, get to know the people at El Camino. It just makes the experience better.
Absolutely. So you go with the process, and then the application is closed.
Yes.
Now, how are the recipients selected, and what are those factors that are considered beyond just the academic performance?
Okay. So the application does, like I said, it's open all fall semester. It closes right before we leave for winter break. And that gives the faculty a little bit of time to do the recommendations if they haven't already done them. And then we actually close it for faculty at the end of winter session. So they have all of winter to do their recommendation. And then the fun starts. In the month of February, we reach out to faculty and staff at El Camino, the Foundation Board of Directors, and request for volunteers. It's all volunteer time to help read the applications, and we do rank them. Every application is read by 2 people. So you get an average of, because everybody grades something differently. So there's a rubric for the grading of the application, and they're read and they're ranked. And then once that all happens, and we get, at least 100 people who help us read. Wonderful. It is wonderful. And we thank them. Thank you for reading. And then we, everything gets ranked, and then we start selecting scholarships. So we have a foundation committee that selects some of the ones that aren't affiliated with a donor. But then we have donors who will send applications to. Remember, I talked about the criteria. So you get fit into each, scholarship where you meet the criteria. And so a donor might have a scholarship for a STEM student. And so if you're a STEM major, you get fed into that. And then that donor will get like 5 applications to look at and read and choose their student. And it's really a wonderful process to work with the donors and to see how engaged they are with selecting the students. And, they have lots of questions about, different things, and they don't always know the acronyms that we use. So it's quite a process. I want to give a shout out to Nancy Toner in my office, who manages that process. And she takes some donors and I take other donors, but she does the bulk of working with the donors and doing the selection. And it's quite a process because we give over, 600 scholarships. So each one is read and vetted and worked with someone. So then once those are all selected, we're doing that this week. I think we're at the very end. We have one more scholarship to award, and we're going to notify the students on Monday. So what we promised them after spring break, we would let them know. So then they're notified. And then we have a lovely dinner for some of the recipients to come and meet their donor. And, the donor is excited, and they kind of bond. It's really a nice experience for them to not just know someone on paper, but actually get to see them in person.
And so it sounds like those factors beyond that academic performance are like all those other questions that you ask about parent status, about major status, about goals, maybe in that essay is what makes all the difference. And I think it's really nice that you provide the El Camino College Scholarship as one application that really matches students with the scholarships versus a student going scholarship by scholarship by scholarship, applying and applying and applying. So that's really great that you're able to do that, you and your team.
Yeah.
So I'm going to skip one question because I really want to get to that success story. So can you share with us a little bit about some success stories or examples of students whose lives were positively impacted by receiving scholarships? And I want to ask that now because the application process, like you said, some students look at it and it seems daunting, right? But this is why it's worth it.
Yeah.
So what are those success stories?
Well, as I told you earlier, there's so many. And I will share one of my favorite, probably because it was one of the first students and donor relationships I saw evolve. And it was when I first started working here. I've been here 9 years. And I was pretty new to the scholarship process. And this donor wanted to meet the student. And it was a student who wanted to be a dentist, and the donor happened to be a retired dentist. And he came to El Camino in the late 50s and then went to USC and had a very successful dental career. So now he's giving back to El Camino. And when we read this student's essay, we're like, oh, he wants to be a dentist. This is perfect. Dr. Bemis, he won't mind that I said that, will love, this. And so they met. And they built this great relationship, and the donor actually helped him financially through his dental career. The student went to USC, which is where Dr. Bemis went. And so Dr. Bemis introduced him to people there. It was just a really match made in heaven. And that does happen a lot with our donors. Like they build that relationship and then they continue on. I have another story about a nursing student who we have a lovely gentleman whose wife came back to college later in life and got her degree at our nursing school, and she passed away several years ago. And so he created a scholarship in her memory, and he always likes to meet with his students. And one of his first students that he selected continued at El Camino, and then went on to get her BSN, Bachelor of Science in Nursing, and then her Master of Science in Nursing, and now is working, 2 different jobs in Orange County, and is just thriving. And she's actually going to speak at our scholarship dinner this year to talk about her journey and how much that scholarship helped her. I had another student who said, this scholarship will allow me not to work as much so I can focus more on my school. Mm-hmm. And we hear that a lot. Mm-hmm. We hear that a lot from students about how it eases some of the burden of paying for college.
Absolutely. And so jumping back to another question, tell me a little bit more about how scholarships can empower students to pursue their academic and career goals more confidently.
I hear a lot. And when you get a scholarship at El Camino, we do require you to write a thank you note to your donor. And they don't get the money until they write that thank you note. And then we send all the notes to the donor, and they love it. And so in many of the thank you notes, it talks about how getting a scholarship makes the student believe that someone believes in them. Like it gives them that, I got a scholarship, I'm going to work harder, be better. Someone is giving me money. So now I have to really buckle down if they haven't already. Most of them have, but it gives them that sense of pride and helps them continue. A lot of times I'll go home at night and share with my husband that today we were able, through the foundation, to have a student stay in school because we were able to give them a scholarship, and they get to finish their education because they were having a hard time. And that's why I love my job.
Yeah, no, you can easily tell somebody, hey, I believe in you, right? And that makes a difference. But to actually invest in a student's future and education, I think, will really motivate the student to fulfill their educational and career goals. And so thank you for providing that for our students. So what are some common misconceptions about scholarships that you would like to address?
I'm not going to get one. Nobody will choose me. I'm transferring, so I shouldn't apply. Mm-hmm. And I think, the other one is I don't have any financial aid, so I won't get a scholarship. And that's not true, because we do have scholarships. Many of them are for students who have financial need, but many of them are for students of any, that don't have financial need. So I think that's another misconception, is that I don't have financial aid, so I don't need a scholarship. So, and I think that, I have to go online. It's going to take me forever to do this, and I have to write an essay. Mm-hmm. But the essay is the easy part, I think, because it's not complicated. Anybody can sit down and tell their story.
Right.
We hope.
And it's not like a 5-page essay.
No,
right?
There's not even a word count on it. We used to have a word count, and I think that was like, I have to do 500 words. Right. There's not even a word count. And recently, we gave a scholarship to someone. It was 3 sentences, their essay. I don't want to recommend that. I like the longer essays, but he had a special story just in 3 sentences. So, we like them a little bit longer, but it's, don't be afraid. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Definitely take that chance, because, over 600 awarded, yes. Close to $1 million that was awarded to students. So definitely take that chance.
Well, and they have the whole semester.
Right.
They have 4 months to complete it. Right. So squeeze it in sometime.
So with that, what advice would you give to students who may feel discouraged or overwhelmed by the scholarship application process?
Again, don't be afraid. It's not that complicated. And most of it is yes, no answers. Yes, no answers. We ask them about employment if they're working. We ask them about community service if they're involved in their community. And then a lot of yes, no answers. I'm in the South Bay Promise. I'm an athlete. I'm in a special program, whatever it is. And like I said, that will put them into those different scholarship categories. It's not a complicated process. And I think that is what deters the students from applying.
Yeah, getting started is always the most difficult step. So what resources or support services are available to help students navigate the scholarship application?
We're very lucky that our Reading Writing Center does essay workshops during the fall. And I think this last year they put on 3. Apparently they're standing room only.
Wow.
So they're very crowded, and students do go, and they give them tips on how to write an essay specifically for our scholarship, things to say, how to write your story. And so I think take advantage of that, because it will, even if you think you know how to write an essay, go get a little bit more help, because a scholarship essay might be a little bit different.
Absolutely. And I think what to take from that is that there is support available. But I think, bringing it back to the student, it's really about you and knowing your story. So, figure out, what your story is and what are those goals and why this financial assistance might be beneficial for you and your educational goals. And then from there, seek out the resources if you need to get through this application process. And so why are scholarships so important for students, particularly those attending El Camino College?
Well, I really think getting a scholarship at El Camino College, if you can cover your expenses at El Camino College and then transfer without any kind of debt at El Camino, that's awesome. And you can save all that money for when you're transferring. And it gets more expensive when you transfer. So the majority of our scholarships are $1,000, but we do have lots that are $2,000. We have a few that are $4,000. And $1,000, if you have the California Promise Grant, which the Board of Governors fee waiver, that can cover your books, and you have a zero expense to come to college. And we also allow students, so scholarships are mostly used for books and supplies and technology. So once your fees are paid, you bought your books, you want to buy a laptop or an iPad or a printer, something like that, or you need printer ink, all of those can be covered by your scholarships. I do want to clarify that some students feel like a scholarship is going to help pay for groceries, and most of ours don't do that. Most of ours are intended just for educational expenses. Some of them do, and we also run it more like a credit. So you don't actually get a physical check. When you get a scholarship from El Camino, you get like a credit. So it's like a bank account with $1,000 in it. And then we can get a book voucher at our bookstore. We can pay your fees directly to El Camino. And then, or if you prefer, you want to go on a website to buy your books, you can do that as well. We love setting up the book voucher because it's so easy, no money out of your pocket. You just walk to the bookstore and get your books, and they're all covered by your scholarship. So I think it's a great way to pay the expenses while you're at El Camino, so that you can save that money, so that when you transfer, you have a little bit more in your piggy bank.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I like that you mentioned scholarship amounts. I do go back to when I was a student many, many, many years ago, and I was a recipient of a scholarship, and it was prior to when we had the El Camino scholarship. So it was a time when I was applying for one scholarship, another scholarship, another scholarship. But it was a $50 scholarship. And I tell you what, it made all the difference, because yes, there was this group, of women actually who chose me as a recipient, and it made all the difference. And so it's like, wow, you believe in me, then I guess I have to believe in myself too, right?
Well, and it was $50 you didn't have to take out of your pocket.
$50 that I really didn't have in my pocket.
Right.
So made all the difference. And thank you for clarifying about how the scholarship money can be used, because I think a lot of times now, we do have some services where students can borrow technology here and there, but I think having that access, right? If you can't go to a library to use a computer, for example, because they close earlier, then you're able to use some of these funds to purchase a laptop or whatnot.
Well, and you could borrow one while you're at El Camino, but you have to give it back when you leave.
Right. No.
So the access to technology through your scholarship is a really added bonus, because then you can get one for when you transfer, and you're going to need that laptop.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
you do great things for El Camino College, and so I thank you for that.
Well, I want to clarify, yes. I get to work with wonderful people who give us money. Our donors are amazing, and I'm just the catalyst for getting it to students. And it's all about the donors, our community partners, the people who believe in our students and believe in community college. Those are the people who are really the angels here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any tips for students who are thinking about applying to El Camino College? What would you tell them?
Oh my gosh, come. Yeah. Enroll and get involved. Yeah. Find your group. Use the people who are here, because every single person on this campus is here to make you successful. And that's our goal. And I know that is everyone's. That's why they get up in the daytime is to come here and to help students and make them successful. So get the resources, get involved. I had all of my children came to El Camino College and they're thriving. It's a great place to be.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And one day they will be the success story that you share for how an El Camino College scholarship made a difference in their life.
There you go.
So thank you so much, Andrea.
Thank you, Julieta.